What's up, everybody? As promised, I'm gonna come on here and answer some of the questions that y'all submitted. Kind of pick my brain, give you back some feedback on breaking the third wall of what it's like to run a DIY label, and just kind of share my experiences and how I operate. So a lot of questions were submitted. Thank you for participating in that. This might actually have to be a multi-part video because some of them are really in-depth questions, but I'm going to try to hammer out as many as I can before I go to a show tonight. So I'm going to answer, the first question comes from the Dirty Hesher, who also plays in the Sacramento-based band Surge. Really fucking killer. I'm looking forward to hearing more from them. He's always got really good questions for me, and here's his question that he submitted. What was the worst moment of failure you had with running a label, and what made you not give up? So, to be completely honest, I did give up, and I failed horribly with my first label when I was in high school, and right after high school. It was it was a learning process. I kind of figured out that no matter how hard I want something to work, that's not really how things work out. There's other people in play, and they have different ideas. And the main band that I was working with and booking and managing and basically like a band dad to them. It just didn't work out. They broke up like shortly after recording. I set them up with some pretty big shows. I booked some shows out in Hollywood, and I kind of put the wheels in motion for some pretty great things to happen if they just kept their momentum. But things happened, and they broke up, and now I have like 1,000 CDs or more in a storage shed somewhere that I can't sell. And shit happens. It's a learning experience. So I have failed before. I think that's part of the reason why I'm not too worried about failing nowadays, since it's just like a labor of passion. Everything, it's about perspective and the way you look at it. Like, what might be a failure to someone else is kind of like it's a win for me. I try to look at everything with a positive spin when I can. Of course, I'm not always positive, and shit does piss me off a lot, but I work really hard at trying to not let stuff bother me as much. And it's personalities and stuff like that. A failure isn't always a failure. Sometimes it's a learning experience, and you need to fail to succeed. So I just try to keep that in mind when I think about giving up. And at this point, I've put in so much work that I would like to keep momentum moving forward instead of just settling. This is like one of the few things that I actually derive any sort of like joy and enrichment and fulfillment in my life. So I stick with it, and it feels good. So hopefully that answered your question. If you have any other ones, you can sling them my way. You always are hitting me with good questions, man. I appreciate that very much. So the next one comes from Emir in Istanbul. I'm probably butchering that. Sorry, fucking American. We're uncultured swine. Your question was, what is your criteria as a label for working with a band, and thoughts on working with new bands? First and foremost, it may be cliche, but I think that the most important thing about me and what's attractive to wanting to work with a band is I have to be a fan of the music. I don't give a shit about fake bands and like hype stuff. I genuinely want to be a fan of the music, so much so as like I want to buy more than one copy of it. That's kind of how I look at this. There's no real money being made in this DIY underground shit. So I can either buy a single copy or I can buy a couple hundred copies, and I that's kind of how I see it. So when I'm going to be working with a band, I want to for sure dig what they're doing. But some of the things, it's not as cut and dry as just like in the music, because there are bands that I like their music, but they can be like problematic. And I'm not going to work with anyone that's like a fucking shithead. So I will go and vet people and check all of their bands, see everything they've done. If I don't know them personally, I primarily only work with bands that I know personally in real life, or that I've booked shows for, who I've filmed over the years. I try to keep as real of a connection with everybody as I can, even in international countries. There's like 1 degree of separation with everybody thus far. So I will, for the people that I reach out to that I don't know, I will go and ask them questions about their bands. I will go and do research and see if they were a part of any like stupid shit. I'll check their social media and just kind of see what kind of person they are, because ultimately my name is connected to them as well. So I don't want to sacrifice anything that I'm working on or working towards because of any one individual. So that's really important for me. So I will go and read into everything before working with a band that I don't know. I don't really work with bands I don't know, to be honest. I don't accept band submissions. So I get a lot of them, but I don't check them because I'm pretty vocal with not accepting band submissions. And a lot of times I feel like the people that send them are kind of like entitled shitheads that just expect free money from me, and that's just not gonna fucking happen. One of the things that I do besides checking on research is I will go and check my order history and see if an individual has ever actually placed an order with me. And if somebody has never even supported my label before and they just expect a fucking handout, that's like, I'll just block them. Like, I don't have time for the bullshit. So yeah, I hope that kind of clears that up a little bit for you and everyone else that might be interested in that. Sorry about the tangent, but you know, that's kind of where I go with that sort of question. It's something that gets brought up a lot, and figured I would just put the nail in the coffin on that one. So the next one comes from Snack Dude Drew, and his question is: as a label runner, what didn't work out that you thought would? That's really it's a complex question, because I'm putting out underground music, so it's like, what really does work out in this? I think like a best case scenario most of the times for a lot of these bands that I work with is like just breaking even, and that doesn't happen a lot. That's why I'm very particular over who I work with, because it's basically me giving like a band $1,000 minimum, and it it doesn't always come back in return. A lot of the releases that I absolutely love, that I think are gonna be like a fucking home run, can be totally slept on and people don't appreciate it. And then something that I put out that I was just kind of like, yeah, this is cool, I want to support this person and their band, I totally dig them as people, their music is solid, they're good, and I could put that out and instantly that like fucking does really fucking well. And so it's really hard for me to gauge what people are going to like. So I think that that's something that it's unpredictable, but that's kind of like the fun of running a label, just kind of seeing what people are even interested in. But at the end of the day, I genuinely like everything that I release, and that's the most important thing to me. Whether or not other people like it is, it's cool if they do. Obviously I hope that they do, because this is like, a glamour thing. Bands really care about that stuff, but like I like it, and that's enough for me at the end of the day. So yeah, you know, you just gotta take it as it comes, and you know, not everything's gonna work out, and that's okay. The next person that asked the question is Mal Resting, and they ask, how do you go about finding new people to be a part of your scene? That's a pretty good question. For me, it's really fucking important that people exist in a scene to begin with before I even am approaching them. If you're not a part of your local community and your local scene doing things, I'm really not fucking interested in you. If you're just like some bedroom musician that like hangs out by yourself and you're like super, I don't know, you don't go out and you're just like one of those types, there's a pretty high chance that I'm not going to want to support your band. I play in bands myself, so I think it's really important for me to work with people that are also in bands and they understand the importance of going out and being a part of a scene and supporting one another, because that's what you're supposed to do as a band. So I don't look for new people to be a part of a scene, but I am always welcoming new bands that want to be a part of something into folds, and giving them direction on who they should talk to, what they should do as a band. But you know, at the end of the day, it's not my job to hold somebody's hand and tell them how to be a decent human being to other people in bands and respect one another. And so I can tell them, hey, why don't you come out and go to these shows? Like, you want to play some shows? Go to some shows in your local area, talk to the bands, tell them you play in a band, talk to the promoter, tell them you play in the band, get on some fucking opening spots. Just do whatever you can, get to be a part of that and get your foot in the door, and then other things will start coming to you. Nothing is owed to you. Like, nobody owes you shit. You need to find your own spot and get yourself there. That's what I did. That's how I started this label, is when I moved to the Bay Area, no one fucked with me. They didn't want to do shit with me. I wasn't cool. None of my friends were cool. We weren't able to get on all the fucking sweet shit. But then we started our own scene of just us, of like the outcasts, and we just started making shit happen, and other people were like, whoa, this is cool, I want to be a part of this. And then we found our in, and that was our in. Anyone can do that. So I highly recommend doing that and being involved within your local scene. Don't just look for someone to be like, hey, you can come in to this random scene. Be the change you want to see. So I think that's really, really important. So the next question comes from Ian Taco, and he asks, what advice would you give to an aspiring visual artist who wants to get into album artwork, merch design, logo design, etc.? How should they be promoting themselves and guiding themselves out there? What are reasonable prices to be charging for work? You know, obviously social media is going to be a helper to you. You can reach out to people, you can share your work, you can create something from the ground up, and doing stuff in your dungeon, and that's totally fine. And a lot of artists make a name for themselves doing that. I think that I don't want to devalue art on any sort of level, but I think that something that stops a lot of artists from getting work is overvaluing their time and effort. And I don't mean to say that as in you shouldn't value your time, but the reality is there's a million artists out there, and if you're asking for above what you know, the level that you're at, you're not gonna get a lot of work. You might get some here and there, but something that I've learned with talking to friends that like are tattoo artists, they would rather keep a customer for life instead of milking a customer for all of their money up front. It's another term is called like the long con. So you kind of go a little for a long time as opposed to a lot for a really short time. So I think that that can be really applicable to art. So if you are able to link yourself up with a particular band, a record label, a brand, what have you, and just build yourself with them, you guys can really build together and create a relationship to where your audiences both grow and you both have value in one another. And I think that's really important. So I know there's like the weird adage of, in band stuff, it's like you play for exposure. And it's not really the same deal with bands, because playing for exposure exposes you to an audience that's already familiar with you, or they don't really give a shit. But if you are helping out bands, they're going to promote your work, and people are going to see that and be like, wow, this is actually fucking cool. I wonder who this is. I wonder how we can work with them. And I see that happen all the time. And unfortunately, a lot of artists, when they're just starting out, especially if they're a little bit older in life and they have like jobs, family, they kind of expect, some of them will want like an hourly wage for their work. And that's fine. Like, I do believe in paying people for their work, but at the same time, if you're paying somebody for their work, you should get something exactly that you want. And that's not really the way art works. So it's all up to you how much you want to charge. But if you have kind of high prices to start out with, don't be surprised if you don't get any hits. Or if you do get hits, you might get one or two, and then it's just not going to happen. I think that if you have a little bit lower rates to start out with for the first couple of years, then you can make a lot more money, as opposed to just holding the standard and looking for a certain amount of money. And it's difficult, but honestly, that's what paying your dues is. Us in bands, we do it. Like, we've played so many fucking shows and not made jack shit, like fucking drink tickets or whatever, or like nothing. And that's just kind of how it goes until you get your footing established. And I think that that's kind of where artists should be as well. I understand that some of them don't feel like that's like very fair to them. And I mean, I get that. I totally understand valuing yourself and your time, but it's a little bit unrealistic sometimes. And yeah, I think that you just got to find a comfortable medium. And if you find somebody that really likes your work and that you get along with aesthetically, stick with them. Don't just like bounce around. Like, you can really build with an artist or a brand, and you guys can do some really rad shit together. And I think that that's important as well, establishing your space in the fucking universe. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. And some of you artists don't get super pissed off. But if you do, whatever. I pay artists, so, happens. So the next one comes from Space Seer. And Space Seer asks, how do you reach potential fans? It seems the algorithm works against artists exclusively. Yeah, you're fucking right. I hate having to post on the internet. I don't like having to do post constantly to keep my reach retained. I think that that's like, it drives me fucking mad. And specifically, since I have a business profile, it's a lot more limited, the reach, because they want me to pay to promote every single post. Coincidentally enough, I did pay to promote this post so I can get some good questions, because this is something that I think is worthwhile. But yeah, so you have to post a lot. They want you to post daily to keep, I think we're looking at like between 7 to 14% of viewership, which is fucking abysmal. So if you have like 7,000 followers, you should expect anywhere between 70 to 100 people, at minimum, to like see maybe 200 if you're lucky, to see your posts and respond and react with them. Facebook's even worse. I think they're at like under 7% at best case scenario. So I don't even really fuck around with Facebook anymore. I spent a couple $1,000s just sponsoring posts and trying to figure out that whole thing, to realize it's just fucking bullshit. So I think that the best way for me to reach my fans is directly. So for instance, like doing a video like this, sending out packages, being approachable to people. Like I am an asshole, but I'm not like a complete asshole. Like I will answer questions, and I'm here to help people figure stuff out. So I think that like that's me, is like being me is like a good way for me to reach fans, but I could be totally wrong. I'm a fucking boomer, so all this stuff is brand new to me. But that's personally what I'm doing to try to reach fans. So yeah. The next question comes from Seed Murda, and he says, what do you use to keep track of sales and business, and do your own taxes? And he also says, I've been thinking about, what does a typical contract to release an album look like or consist of? Guarantees, percentages, and etc. So both of these are really good questions. First and foremost, you gotta pay your fucking taxes. The government does not fuck around, and that's just off top. You have to. So that's super crucial to do. I use business programs that import and export all of my sales, all of my orders, so I have everything nice and neat. As far as a typical contract, to be completely honest, I don't do them. I'm going to start doing them, but I don't really like the idea of having to do a contract, because I don't want to take the rights to anyone's music. I play in bands, so I advise everyone to like, hey, you should retain the rights to your music, etc. So there's several other labels that I'm in conversation with, or I talk to, and I've learned from them like what their contracts are like, and I kind of like what mine is. And my deal is it's a little bit higher than most of the other labels, because like I said, I only work with friends, so it's not like a business for me. Ideally at some point I would love to like make it a little bit more lucrative or whatever, but for me, I just do a straight up 25% cut of physical, and I just give that out right out top. Some labels will they need to make a certain amount of money, and then they'll do like a percentage cut. I'm open. The one, like, I think I've done like a couple contracts, and the only ones that I'll do that I thought that was good is that once you recoup fees for cost of production and everything behind the scenes, then a split comes with whatever's made on top of that. But to be totally honest, like, I don't expect to ever break even on the releases that I did do contracts with. They just requested it, so it was more for their, I don't know, like feather in their cap or whatever. To me, I don't really give a shit about that stuff. I'm not here to lock down any bands. They can do as they want, and there's a million other bands out there for me to work with that I'm always like looking for good new stuff. So yeah, that's just kind of how it goes for me. Hopefully that answers your question. I know it's maybe not the question that everybody wanted. I know typically that most labels do, depending on like vinyl, I've heard of as low as 5%, and then some up to like 10% to 15% on the high end. But if labels are paying for album recording and mixing and mastering, the bands lose everything. They lose all of their rights, and then the labels take all the money, and then they do percentage cut after costs are recouped. And a lot of labels that are doing stuff like that, they'll help with like tour support, and essentially that's going to just put the band in the fucking red, because they're going to be owing the label for the pressing of the album, and you know, you're talking 25-30 grand just for the pressing of the album, another 10-15 grand for recording, mixing, maybe another couple of grand for artwork, and then you know, if we're talking about touring, you're looking at van support. So a band could easily be in like $50,000 worth of debt before they even hit the road. So they're just eating ass for the whole 6-7 months on the road, trying to recoup the fees for the label, all the while the label is like printing merchandise and then charging them for that. So it gets really sticky, and I don't I don't tend to do anything like that, because it's just not really my way of doing stuff. Plus, I don't have the space for that kind of stuff. I'd rather just keep working with more bands and helping out. So yeah, you know, hopefully that answers that for you. Dad Metal for Life asks, are there specific areas where you look for solid bands, or do they mostly just come to you? So I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. I don't let bands come to me. So I follow a bunch of videographers, and all over the United States and all over the world, and I watch all of their videos and try to figure out who's who and what kind of bands, and actually listen to them. So I go and do that, and then you know, being involved in the underground community for over 20 years, I've made a lot of friends and met a lot of people along the way. So I do a lot of like word of mouth, because I think that's the easiest for me. So I will go and be like, oh, hey, you know, I'll make a fucking post on my own page like, hey, what are some cool bands from your area that you're really digging on? And then I will go and listen to them, and then if they really strike my fancy, I will reach out to that person that posted them and be like, hey, can you put me in contact with somebody in this band, and kind of go from there. So I kind of like to look for the bands myself. I know a lot of other labels like to do that as well. Generally, bands that send in demos, they're not too good. And you know, I'd rather curate this myself than putting something out that I'm not absolutely in love with. So yeah, I keep my ear to the ground, and I'm always looking out for new stuff. I think that's going to be about it. We're about the 30-minute mark today, so I'm going to cut this right now, and we'll pick back up on this maybe tomorrow or the next day. You guys can ask some more questions if you want. We'll just tack them on here. And I appreciate everybody for your time, and thanks for all the fucking great questions. Hopefully you get a little bit of something out of this. Either way, hope you're well. Take it easy.